Good morning everyone, I am Charlotte Santos, the first reporter for today. Today, I will discuss the functional organizational structure, advantages and disadvantages of functional organizational structure, and role of project manager within a functional organizational structure. The functional organizational structure is a particular type of organization in which a company can decide to organize itself. The structure of an organization determines how employee, team, and work responsibilities are organized in order to meet the final needs and goals. In functional organizational structure, the employees are divided into departments. It is characterized by similarity of the tasks, and the projects are carried out within the individual department units. So what is the functional organizational structure? A functional organizational structure is composed by project team members allocated according to the different functional units of an organization. A typical organization has different functional units such as human resources, finance, marketing, sales, operations, IT, and administration. Each unit is managed by a functional manager who reports to the strategic direction of the organization. In a large organization, the heads of individual functional unit may have other operational managers working under them and reporting directly to them. The larger the organization, the more levels it will have the functional units. For example, the HR department can have an HR head manager. Under that, which we can find additional HR managers, and each sub-responsible will deal with different aspects of this same department such as hiring, payroll management, and staff training. All these managers work in harmony with the human resource department head in order to achieve the overall goals of HR department. Therefore, functional organizational structure must be managed using a hierarchical structure. In an organization of this type, the execution of a project means the birth of temporary team. The project team will be composed by members coming from different functional units. Therefore, the members of different functional units will deal with the part of the projects that concern them most closely and of which they are directly responsible. It is not mandatory that all units in an organization are present in a project. The employees will in fact be assigned only in the basis of the requirements of given project. When an organization is structured in functional way, it is important to know what are the advantages and disadvantages of this choice. Let's try to clear ideas by listing the advantages and disadvantages of this organization. Let's start with the advantages. The advantages of a functional organizational structure. The first one is no change. The projects are complete within the basic functional structure of the organization. There is no radical change in the operation and structure of the organization. Next one is flexibility. There is a maximum flexibility regarding in the use of team member. Specialists from different functional units can be temporarily assigned into the projects after which they return to their normal work. With many specialists available within each functional department, people can be exchanged between different projects with a relative ease. In-depth expertise. If the primary responsibility of the project is assigned to the correct functional unit, it is possible to make use of in-depth expertise on the most crucial aspect of the project. Easy post-project transition. Normal career paths are maintained within a functional department. While specialists can make a significant contribution to the project, their functional unit is their professional home. Therefore, the focus of their professional growth and advancement, the project becomes like a temporary home for the staff members, and once it is completed, the employees return to his real permanent home, which is their functional department. We are done to the advantages, and now let's move to the disadvantages of functional organizational structure. The first one is lack of attention. Each functional unit has its own basic work to do, and it is happen that the project responsibilities are set aside to meet this primary obligation. This becomes even more difficult when the project has different properties from different units. For example, the marketing department can consider one project urgent while other departments consider it only the secondary importance, if not the real waste of time. This can lead to delays and quality problems. The second one is poor integration. There may be a poor integration between functional units. Functional specialists tend to care only about their own project segments and not what is best for the project in general. Slow. In general, more time is needed to complete project within a functional organizational structure. This is partly attributable to slow response times. Information on the other projects and decision must be disseminated through the normal management channel that do not consider horizontal communication between departments. The last disadvantage is lack of ownership. The motivation of the people assigned to the project may be weak. The project can be seen as additional work and not directly related to the one's professional development. Moreover, since the project members only work on one part of the project, they do not identify with the project as a whole. Lack of ownership thus discourages team members who may not engage enough in the project-related activities. The result even in this case will be the problem of quality of the result. The role of project manager within a functional organizational structure. It is a fact that the project manager has less authority over the members of project team in the functional structure than in any other form of organizational structure. In fact, he is more of a project coordinator than a real project manager. This is precisely because a functional manager maintains complete authority over the project team members and project budgets. Here are the important facts regarding the role of project manager within a functional organizational structure. The functional organizational is a traditional organizational structure in which the authorities and therefore the real managers are divided according to the function performed by a particular group of people, such as finance, HR, marketing, and purchases. Power and authority are in hands of a functional manager, not on those project managers. The functional manager has the authority to release the resources based on their own knowledge and their competence. The project manager is therefore always dependent and pending on the decision of the different functional managers. The resources goes back to the functional manager after completing the project, and in any case, it is never completely separated. The resources that work in this type of organization are always under the authority of the functional managers in any situation. The project manager generally has much less power in this type of organization. Project manager skills are much less used in type of organization. The resources assigned to the role of project manager is usually a member of the team within a functional area and does not have the real project manager title of trainee. Functional manager will control the budget and the project manager will act more as the coordinator of the project activities rather than having real project management responsibilities. The resources of the project must be negotiated with the functional managers, and the accessibility of these resources will be based on the business conditions. Any type of problem escalation must be reported to the functional manager. Since the project manager has low or no authority, the project can last longer compared to the other organizational structure. Generally, there is no recognized project management methodology or best practice use. The project manager practically assists the functional manager, and the project manager spends a lot of time doing the administrative tasks and often works as project manager only is a part-time. In conclusion, in a functional organization, project manager have the little or no role when it comes to allocate resources and must completely rely on and hope for the cooperation of the functional managers in order to obtain the resources they need to complete the projects. And functional manager have complete control over the company's specialized department and are responsible for the productivity and result of the units. To reach our conclusion, we can say that in general, the functional organizational structure can work well in a company that mainly carries out the repetitive work. And now I will introduce the next presenter is Mr. Jimwell Sakdalan.
Good morning everyone, I'm Jin Sakdalan, your reporter number 2, and my topic is about the project organization. But before we proceed, my discussion consists of what is project organization, areas of responsibility, types of organizational structure, and how to make a project organizational chart. So what is project organization? The structure of the project is the project organization. It's done in pieces with specialists and employees from various departments contributing. These individuals report to the project manager. Project organization is a process. It provides the arrangement of decisions on how to realize a project. It decides the project's process, planning how it costs, deadlines, personnel, and tools will be implemented. The project organization is then presented to the project stakeholders. Areas of responsibility. There are 3 areas of competence and responsibility in a project organizational structure: project leadership, the project team, and the project board. The project leadership is responsible for the management of the project, and the project team implements the project. The project board is the decision-making body that defines project success and whether or not a project must be cancelled. Types of project organizational structures. Number 1. Functional. It is when the organizational departments are grouped by areas of specialization. In this case, the project is usually executed in a solo environment. Number 2. Projectized. It is when the entire organization is organized by the project. And number 3. Matrix. It has teams report to both a functional manager and project manager, sort of a hybrid of previous 2 structures. Number 4. Organic. Project organization embraces flexibility. Number 5. Virtual. It is when the project manager is the hub in the network. And lastly, multi-division. It means that functional groups are decentralized. Understanding what type of organizational structure to use determines a project management. The structure provides the bones for the project, and therefore the project plan must align itself with the structure. This is usually done with a project organizational chart. Project organizational structure chart. Figuring out what structure to make a project organization is only the start of organizing a project. The real work is implementing and applying that project organization. That's why a project organizational chart is so important. It establishes the formal relationships between the project manager, project team, development organization, the project itself, and the project stakeholders. Best practices. The project manager creates the project structure, which must meet the project needs throughout its phases. The project organizational structure, however, cannot be too rigid or too loose, but strike the right balance between those 2 points. The object of a project organization is to help the team achieve the project goal and do their best. Therefore, a project manager must analyze their team members' strengths for the start and when assigned. Ask them if they're comfortable in their roles. While the project organization chart fosters collaboration in a cost-effective way, avoiding duplication and overlaps of effort, it has only limited value. That's because it is only illustrating a hierarchical relationship among the team, not how they'll do the work. That said, it is still a valuable tool and part of any well-planned project or portfolio. How to make a project organization chart. The project organization chart will identify the roles and responsibilities of the team, but also detail those team members selected for those roles. This includes identifying training if needed, recognizing how to allocate resources, and determining appropriate ways to involve stakeholders. Step number 1. Identify personnel. First, who are the people that are related to the project scope? These are those who have an impact on the project. They are the key staff. These people can run marketers to salespeople, department heads, and IT personnel to consultants and support staff. Number 2. Create senior management team. The next step is to get a team who is responsible for the project. These are, of course, those individuals with a vested interest in the project and are committed to its success. This team is usually made up of project sponsors or the client, though it can also include experts who offer guidance throughout the project. Step number 3. Assign project coordinators. There's a need to have a point person or group at the mid-low management level to carry out duties that fall to this level. This person or group will help synchronize team tasks. The number of coordinators will be determined by the size of the project, but always focus on 3 areas of a project: planning, technical, and communications. Step number 4. Note stakeholders. Outside of the team that will execute the project, it is key to identify the stakeholders, as they are also impacted by the project and participate in project development. Step number 5. Identify training requirements. Sometimes, teams are proficient at their tasks and with the tools that have been furnished to help them. Sometimes they're not and need a period of training before the project can be executed. This is the point where any training that is needed is established and offered to the team. The project coordinator is usually who manages this task of upskilling team members. And lastly, step number 6. Create project organization chart. Finally, it's time to develop the project organization chart. First, review the previous steps and then make this visual representation of how the people in the project will collaborate, what their duties are, and when they're interrelated.
The project manager basically acts as a staff assistant who draws the schedules and checklists, collects information on status of work and facilitates project completion. The project manager has indirect authority to expedite and monitor the project. Functional managers call most of the shots and decides who does what and when the work is completed. Second matrix, we have the balance matrix. This is the classic matrix in which the project manager is responsible for defining what needs to be accomplished, while the functional managers are concerned with how it will be accomplished. More specifically, the project manager establishes the overall plan for completing the project, integrates the contribution of the different disciplines, sets schedules, and monitor progress. The functional managers are responsible for assigning personnel and executing their segment of the project according to the standards and schedules set by the project manager. The merger of what and how requires both parties to work closely together and jointly approve technical and operational decisions. Next, we have the strong matrix. This form attempts to create the feel of a project team within the environment. The project manager controls most aspects of the project, including scope, trade-offs, and assignment of functional personnel. The project manager controls when and what specialists do and has final say on major project decisions. The functional manager, on the other side, has title over her people and is consulted on a need basis. In some situations, a functional manager's department may serve as a subcontractor of the project, in which case they have more control over specialized work. For example, the development of a new series of laptop computers may require a team of experts from different disciplines working on the basic design and performance requirements within a project matrix arrangement. Once the specifications have been determined, the final design and production of certain components, for example, the power and power source, it may be assigned to respective functional groups to complete. Next, according to Larson and Godelli, matrix management, both in general and its specific forms, has unique strengths and weaknesses. First, the advantages. First, we have the efficient. Resources can be shared across multiple projects as well as within functional divisions. Individuals can divide their energy across multiple projects on as-needed basis. This reduces duplication required in a projectized structure. Second, strong project focus. A stronger project focus is provided by having a formally designated project manager who is responsible for coordinating and integrating contributions of different units. This helps sustain a holistic approach to problem solving that is often missing in the functional organization. Third, we have the easier post-project transition. Since the project organization is overlaid on the functional divisions, specialists maintain ties with their functional group, so they have a home port to return to once the project is completed. Flexible. Being flexible, matrix arrangements provide for flexible utilization of resources and expertise within the firm. In some cases, functional units may provide individuals who are managed by the project manager. In other cases, the contributions are monitored by the functional manager. The strengths of the matrix structure are considerable. Unfortunately, so are the potential weaknesses. On the other side, there are also disadvantages of matrix organization or matrix arrangement. First, we have the dysfunctional conflict. Here, the matrix approach is predicted on tension between functional managers and project managers who bring critical expertise and perspectives to the project. Such tension is viewed as a necessary mechanism for achieving an appropriate balance between complex technical issues and unique project requirements. While the intent is noble, the effect is sometimes analogous to opening Pandora's box. Legitimate conflict can spill over to a more personal level, resulting from conflicting agendas and accountabilities. Worthy discussions can degenerate into heated arguments that engender animosity among the managers involved. Second, we have the infighting. Any situation in which equipment, resources, and people are being shared across projects and functional activities lends itself to conflict and competition for scarce resources. Infighting can occur among project managers who are primarily interested in what is best for their project. And next, we have the stressful. Matrix management violates the management principle of unity of command. Project participants have at least two bosses, their functional head and one or more project managers. Working in a matrix environment can be extremely stressful. Imagine what it would be like to work in an environment in which you are being told to do three conflicting things by three different managers. It will be stressful for your part to manage or to handle it. Next, the last disadvantage, we have the slow. In theory, the presence of a project manager to coordinate the project should accelerate the completion of the project. In practice, decision-making can get bogged down as agreements have to be forged across multiple functional groups. This is especially true for the balanced matrix. When the three variant forms of the matrix approach are considered, we can see the advantages and disadvantages. These are not necessarily true for all three forms of matrix. The strong matrix is likely to enhance project integration, diminish internal power struggles, and ultimately improve control of project activities and cost. On the downside, technical quality may suffer because functional areas have less control over their contributions. It may emerge as the members develop a strong team identity. While in the weak matrix is likely to improve technical quality as well as provide a better system for managing conflict across projects because the functional manager assign personnel to different projects. The problem is that functional control is often maintained at the expense of poor project integration. The balance matrix can achieve better balance between technical and project requirements, but it is a very delicate system to manage and is more likely to have a problem to many of the in having a troublesome to many of the problems associated with the matrix approach. That's all. Thank you. And the next reporter will be Mr. JB Topasi.
Good day everyone, I'm JB Topasi, the fourth presenter, and I'm going to discuss about mixed organization structure. According to Ruth and BSBA 1992, an organization structure in which the skilled employees often work in more than one department or on different assignments across the departments is known as mixed structure. In this structure, an employee has to report to two managers at the same time. For example, an accountant works in a finance department and manages the companies around. The same accountant is also responsible for handling the cash flows of the new project. In this situation, he needs to report to both the CEOs as well as the project manager. With an increasing trend of globalization, the organizations are widely adopting the mixed structures effectively to manage the cross-functional teams and maintain their effectiveness. The MNCs need to harmonize their IT operations all across the corporation to ensure and frequent effective management of the shared knowledge, human resource operations, and perfect coordinations of supply chains activities all around the operating countries, such as Azurin and Cameron 2010. This structure is gaining popularity because it brings improvement in using shared human and infrastructure resources, allow flexible and faster decision making, and meeting the customer's expectations in local markets. Fall 2012. This approach has both advantages and disadvantages. But first, let's have the elements. A mixed model or matrix organizational structure has multiple lines of authority with some employees reporting to at least two managers. There are functional managers who oversee departments such as engineering and marketing, and there are project managers who oversee employees who work on specific jobs. The project managers may also report to the functional managers. An example of organization using the mixed model approach is Citigroup. Citigroup has country leaders and product leaders who work together on projects that overlap. And now let's proceed to the advantages. Mixed model organization structures optimize employee experience and resource and work well for companies that are project-based. This structure can improve lines of communication and provide flexibility for working on multiple projects. Employees working on special projects still have links to their functional departments and can refer back to the other members of their departments for consultation and advice. Now, the disadvantages. A major disadvantage to the matrix organization is that it requires a great deal more coordination effort than other structures. Also, employees who have to report to more than one boss may be conflicting accountability. This can lead to conflict and stress for the employees involved. Project leaders of matrix organizations must have good conflict solving skills to cope with these difficulties. And now the other organizational structures. Other common forms or organizational structures include simple structures, functional structures, and divisional structures. Now let's have the simple organization structure. A simple organizational structure is composed of only a few employees and offers only one product or service. Owners have direct supervision over all employees. And a functional organizational structure groups employees into specific departments based upon their experience and skills. These organizations have a centralized unit that coordinates activities of different departments. And lastly, the divisional structure organization has employees grouped around geographical areas, specific clients, or specific product lines. Divisional structures are also sometimes called strategic business units or SBUs. So that's all for my part. Miss Leslie Solomon will be the next presenter.
So good morning everyone, I am Leslie Solomon and my topic is all about choosing an organizational form. Project Management Office continues to gain prominence Many organizations of all industrial sector are positioning them as the key partners in the achievement of strategic objectives. It has been demonstrated that PMOs can solve many of the problems organizations face when managing portfolios. Programs and projects such as misalignment between projects and strategy management, failure to anticipate corrective actions over troubled project, use of non-standard project management practices, among others. When implementing a PMO, the first thing that must be done is select a structure type tailored to the specific needs of the organization, which is not easy task as there is no one-size-fit-all formula. Organization can be very different from one another in their needs, size, structure, and project management maturity, and selecting the right structure type is a key success factor. The challenge of selecting the right type of PMO structure, and these are the type of PMO structure that can be classified. First is supporting, which it provides methodologies, procedures, templates, best practices, training, and other resources. Next, controlling. It establishes procedures to ensure adherence to methodologies through monitoring metrics and performance reporting to management. Directive, it leads the recruiting of project management staff, assignment of resources to projects, including project managers themselves, project selection in alignment with the organization's strategy, cancellation of failed projects, resource management across projects, among others. To choose the right type of PMO structure, many factors must be considered, such as whether the organization is profit or non-profit, local or global, small or big, and its industrial sector, technical discipline that employs human cultures, among others. Next is the fourth step to choose the right type of PMO structure for your organization. First is to gather stakeholders to assess their needs. The key stakeholders that are requiring the creation of the PMO can give you a valuable information regarding current business concerns. Begin conversation with them using these following questions, like what are the main issues and concerns of the organizations? Does the organization run mainly operations or projects? And by this question, you can begin to acquire a sense of the internal workings and complexities of the organization. Second is to understand the organization's size, complexity, and culture. And use these following questions, like what does the company do? What are the main products and services? What technical disciplines are involved in the core business? Or is it a small, medium, or large business? Third is to assess organization projects management maturity, like determine the degree maturity of project management practices by initiating conversation with questions like does our organizations have a project management office with clearly defined roles and authority? Does the organizations have personnel with specialized expertise in project management? And last step is the select of PMO structure type and roles aligned with current project management maturity. Following is the basis for deciding which supporting, controlling, and directive roles will perform the PMO. The focus of the new PMO must be in the supporting role, controlling role, and directive role, which I already discussed earlier. So that's all for my report, and now I will introduce you Miss Patricia Di Mailing.
Good morning everyone. Again, my name is Patricia Di Mailing and I'm the 6th reporter. And the topics that I'm going to discuss are risk management and the Project Management Office. What is risk management? In project management, risk management is the practice of identifying, evaluating, and preventing or mitigating risk to a project that have potential to impact the desired outcomes. Project managers are typically responsible for overseeing the risk management process throughout the duration of a given project. To effectively manage risk, project managers must have a clear understanding of their objectives so they can identify any possible barriers that could impact the team's ability to produce results. According to Connie Emerson, risk management is really about looking at your project objectives and figuring out what the threats to those objectives are and what you can do to address them from the beginning. There are several types of risk that occur frequently regardless of the specifics of the project. Number 1 is the cost. The risk of events that impact the budget, especially those that cause the project to be completed over budget. Errors in cost estimation commonly generate risk in addition to external factors. Number 2 is schedule. The risk of unplanned scheduling conflicts such as events that cause the project to be delayed. Scope creep is a common reason for scheduling issues and project delays. Number 3 is performance. The risk of events that cause the project to produce results that are inconsistent with the project specifications. Depending on the project details, there are many other types of risk that can occur. For example, project managers may also need to plan around risk pertaining to implementation, training, testing, and so on. Once project managers identify the categories of risk they should be concerned with, they can begin to understand how this risk might impact the project outcomes and what they can do to reduce their effects. While it is impossible to completely eliminate risk, there are steps that project managers can take to effectively manage projects while reducing the amount of risk. Number 1 is to identify the risks that could potentially impact your project. Number 2 is assign ownership of each identified risk to a team member who will be charged with overseeing the threat or opportunity. Although some project managers prefer to assign ownership after the risks have been analyzed and prioritized, taking this step early can be beneficial. Number 3 is analyze each risk to fully understand the driving factors involved and potential impacts. Be sure to consider the depth of each threat at this stage in order to evaluate the severity of each risk in the context of the overall project. Number 4 is prioritize project risk according to urgency and the severity of the impact they could cause. Number 5 is to respond to your identified risk in accordance with your risk management approach, either by taking steps to prevent the risk event from occurring or to minimize impact if it does occur. This step should include building the response as well as taking action. Number 6 is monitor your risk management strategy and make changes as needed. Although there are clear steps in the risk management process, this should ideally be an ongoing effort. After all, the nature of risk is inherently unpredictable, and project managers need to have the agility and discipline to continuously adapt to changes throughout the given project. Number 1 is to create a risk management plan. Anyone that has experience in project management knows how essential a strong project plan is to the success of the organization. There are many ancillary plans that are often encompassed in this plan, including the risk management plan. According to Emerson, your risk management plan should define your methodology for identifying and prioritizing risk, your risk tolerance, how your team will respond to risk, how you will communicate risk, etc. Developing such plan takes time and effort, but investing in the planning phase often pays off by creating roadmap that will guide your team throughout the execution of the pace of your project. Having this document will help you stay on top of potential issues, but it is important that you keep it current so that you always have an accurate snapshot to refer to. Number 2 is keep your risk register up to date. Your risk register, which can either be combined with your risk management plan or separate document. Number 3 is to understand the risk event. A common mistake in risk management is the tendency for people to think about risk in terms of the possible outcomes rather than the risk event itself. For example, people sometimes identify missing the deadline is a risk to their project, while missing the deadline is certainly a threat to the project. This isn't actually the risk, but rather the impact. Number 4 is be proactive instead of reactive. Project managers can sometimes make the mistake of taking a reactive approach to risk management rather than a proactive approach. It will always be necessary to have the agility to react when an unplanned event occurs, but it is also important to take a step back and view your project through a proactive lens. By investing time in the early stages of the risk management process and fully analyzing each risk, you can prepare yourself to take preventative steps that reduce the probability of the risk event occurring rather than trying to respond once it has already happened. Number 5 is to develop your project management skills. Above all, effectively managing projects under risk requires a strong foundation of project management skills. And for the next topic that I'm going to discuss is about Project Management Office. A project management office is a group of departments that defines, maintains, and ensures project management standards across organization. A project management office provides administrative support for the project management team and standardizes the project-related management processes. A project management office keeps documentation on projects and offers direction and key metrics in the execution of the projects under its governance. There are 3 types of project management office. Number 1 is supportive. A supportive project management office collects all projects in an organization, supplies best practices, templates, training, but with a low degree of control. Number 2 is controlling. A controlling project management office checks if the project management tools, processes, and standards are being applied in the projects with some degree of control. Number 3 is directive. A directive project management contains a high degree of control in the project management process within the organization. That's all. Thank you for listening.
So what is a project team? A project team is the group of people responsible for executing the tasks and producing deliverables outlined in the project plan and schedule, as directed by project manager, at whatever level of effort or participation defined for them. Project team members may or may not be involved during the entire life cycle of the project and may or may not be full-time to the project. Project teams are comprised of many different roles, such as project manager, subject matter experts, business analysts, and other stakeholders. How do I define who should be on the project team? Individuals responsible for doing the work associated with the project will be members of the project team. The project team will include a number of defined roles such as project manager, subject matter expert, and business analyst. A project team of an IT project will likely include technical representation, functional or business representation, and vendor representation. In partnership with the sponsor, the PM will negotiate with the functional managers for their resources time on the project, targeting the resources who are most qualified for the specific project needs. The PM will want to acquire commitment and time from resources who are knowledgeable about the work that needs to be done, are able to represent the stakeholders, and will work both independently on their tasks as well as in partnership with the project team towards the final deliverables. As a group, the project team should represent the diversity of skills and knowledge necessary in the proportion required to successfully complete the project and represent stakeholders. What are the project team responsibilities? Number 1. Provide information, estimates, and feedback to the PM during project planning. Number 2. Provide business and/or technical expertise to execute project tasks. Number 3. Liaise with stakeholders to ensure the project meets business needs. Number 4. Analyze and document current and future processes and systems. Number 5. Identify and map information needs. Number 6. Define and document requirements. Number 7. Support and provide end-user training. Number 8. Report issues and status to PM. And lastly, work collaboratively with other team members towards achieving common project goals or objectives. And here's Ms. Alaysa Ramos to continue the report. Thank you for listening.
Hello, I'm Alaysa Ramos and I'm back again to report human factors and the project team. A project is a planned undertaking that requires a set of human tasks and activities toward achieving a specific objective within a defined time period. Projects are temporary, though they may last from a few hours to many years. A team project involves a group of people with complementary skills and experiences, working together to accomplish the goals and objectives of the project. The purpose of the team is to develop and execute a work plan that will meet the expectations of the project. Everyone on the team is committed and dedicated to the same thing, meeting the goals of the project. Although the goals may be same, how the team elects to execute the work plan is variable. Different teams run the same project differently. This variation is attributable to differences in people, process, and interactions. The interactions of a team are dependent on the collective knowledge, skills, experiences, personalities, and behaviors of the group. Each person has personal preferences regarding how to run the project and how to work within the project. People have different work and communication styles, and these personal preferences and differences represents the diversity of the team. All team members want the same thing to achieve the project goals, but each goes after it differently due to their diversity. This can generate both positive and negative interactions. How well we manage human interactions is the key to the success of any project. The dynamics of a project is determined by the project's strategies, work plan, team processes, team behaviors, and individual human factors. These components are integrated, but they operate at three different planes or spaces. Space refers to a conceptual boundary of human interaction. First, we have the interaction of people and system. It occurs in a broad organizational space. Second, people's interaction with each other occur within a smaller space, referred to as team space. And next, finally, the last one, there is a third space. Each team member's inner self or personal space where internal interactive thinking occurs and human factors are formed. Thus, a project has three types of interactive spaces: the organizational space, team space, and personal space. I call this the three spaces of project management. That's all, and thank you.